Tonight, Finance Ministry discovers 16 billion cedis slash fund by the Akufo-Addo administration as more details emerge about alleged misapplication of fund in tax refund account as government hands down responsible previous government officials.
The way and manner that account has been abused and raped over the last 8 years is very regrettable. We definitely have to look into it because this is against the PFM Act and it's against the Revenue Administration Act itself.
Plus, tonight, Finance Minister issues pause order on 194 billion cedis worth of contracts awarded under the previous administration.
I want to validate once again and to find out whether they have the authorization to commit government to that extent. And if they don't have authorization, we'll ask them to stop.
In the meantime, are you asking them to pause whilst you look?
Yes, we have already communicated that.
We have the latest tonight on Top Story. As always, Top Story is brought to you by Telecel, Connecting Energies and Holy Insecticide Spray and Call. Enjoy a holy sleep. My name is Fostina. Sarfo. Tonight, fresh details are emerging about how the former government officials allegedly abused and misapplied more than 16 billion cedis in government tax refund account. Speaking exclusively to Joy News, the Finance Minister, Dr. Akufo-Addo, described how the Akufo-Addo-led government allegedly used the account as a slush fund. The tax refund account is used to settle individuals and entities who overpay in meeting their tax obligation. Well, yesterday, the Finance Minister disclosed that out of the 29 billion cedis that accrued into that account, only 12 billion was used to refund taxes. The remaining 16 billion remains a subject of huge controversy. Tonight, well, on PM Express last night, the Finance Minister provided additional details on what the alleged misapplied funds were used for.
Going into the ministry, I recall that in 2016, on behalf of my former boss, the Honorable Seth, we sent a bill to Parliament called the Revenue Administration Act. And as part of that act, we had proposed to Parliament to impose 6% of all revenue to be set aside for the purposes of tax refund. 6%. And then we left office in 2016. And so 2017 to date, the 6% had accumulated in total 26 billion cedis. This 26 billion, I asked the GRA and the Ministry of Finance to give me a breakdown of how this taxes and tax refund account has been used. To my surprise, only 43% of the resources that accumulated into that account was used for the purposes that it was supposed to be used for. Like, because of the nature and structure of the VAT, for example, there are times that you overpay and then the tax authority will have to make sure that they refund you to encourage you to make also pay your taxes. 43% was used largely for tax refund. And so largely less than 50% of the tax refund amount has been used for the purposes of tax refund. Then I came out to ask them a question. Can you tabulate for me year in, year out in the last 8 years how they have applied the 57%? To my surprise, once again, the money was largely misapplied and used for things that were not supposed to be used. And I said, this practice cannot continue. And so we are going to put a stop. And to put a stop, we said, okay, to start with, we'll take 2% of the 6% and bring it down to 4%. That 2% this year alone is giving me 3.8 billion cedis. The way and manner that account had been misused, we need to look into it. We definitely have to look into it, because this is against the PFM Act and it's against the Enabling Act, the Revenue Administration Act itself. And the way and manner that account has been abused and raped over the last 8 years is very regrettable.
It was 29.11 billion, out of which they've just used 43%. And I was doing the calculations. You have 16.61 billion that was unaccounted for.
Exactly.
In essence, over 8 years.
Over 8 years.
You actually allege that it has been abused and the funds misapplied, as in the excess
exactly
that was left in there.
That's
a serious accusation.
Oh, it's not serious accusation. I think it's gone past accusation. It's the fact. It's the fact. If you look at the Revenue Administration Act, it tells you what you have to use the tax refund account to. I mean, it gives you a clear indication and a clear guidelines and the way you should operate that account. Unfortunately, it has been used as a slush fund. Unfortunately, I don't want to go into the details as to how they use it because
so that once you say misapplied, yes, then you must know what they used it for.
Oh no, I know exactly what they used the money for. They were using it to pay for contractors as and when they feel that a contractor must be paid from that account, and they were paying it.
Is somebody going to be held accountable for this?
It is not up to me to hold people accountable. It's up to the government agency, and the government agency is acting on this matter.
You have drawn the attention of the agencies
they know already.
To this.
They know already.
The 16.61 billion is what you're talking about.
It's quite a lot of money that has been misapplied.
The money, the excess, you didn't find it in the account.
It is not in the account. The account is empty.
The account is 29.11 billion.
It's empty as we speak.
Well, Joy News is also learning tonight that the Finance Ministry has issued a pause order on 194 billion cedis worth of contracts awarded under the previous administration. While the Finance Minister disclosed on PM Express that the pause order will hold until a detailed audit of all pending government contracts is completed.
The problem we have is more than the rest.
Okay.
We have, again, contracts that has been awarded and active. About 194 billion Ghana cedis. Contracts. 194 billion Ghana cedis. Contract that has been awarded across the economy. That the Ministry of Finance, one way or the other, if they are to perform, will have to pay. But you see, the contract is what flows into the IPCs. Because when the person works, then the state will have to make allocation to pay. But if you don't have money, why do you award those contracts? 194 billion, almost $200 billion as cedis. 200 billion cedis. And that is different from the 67.5 billion Ghana cedis.
So you're not sure yet if those contracts have been executed or have been executed?
Yes, from the first job that we did, the feedback we had is that some of them are at site working, and some have also, some of them are suppliers, so they have to supply and they are in the process to supply. And so I've said that I want to validate once again and to find out whether they have the authorization to commit government to that extent. And if they don't have authorization, we'll ask them to stop. Because
in the meantime, though, are you asking them to pause whilst you look?
Yes, we have already communicated that.
They should pause whilst you look?
Because we need to find out as to whether they have authorization to commit that quantum, 194 billion Ghana cedis, and as to whether the budget can accommodate 194 billion. For example, if they are able to produce IPCs worth 100 billion cedis, can the budget accommodate it? The answer is certainly no, not accommodate it.
Well, tonight, the former Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, may be in more trouble as the Finance Ministry gathers evidence of breach of the Public Financial Management Act. Dr. Akufo-Addo says they have found evidence that suggests several contracts were awarded and executed over and above what was allocated by law, and in some cases where there was no funding available. He says the Attorney General will be furnished with the evidence.
The sanctions may not only be looking forward, it has to look at those who have infringed upon the PFM Act.
In the past?
In the past. So you have to look back and look forward so that, at the minimum, those in office today will also know that what has happened to the person who infringed upon the PFM Act may happen to you.
To be clear,
so the country will not go there.
This will apply to officers in the previous administration.
Of course, it's a PFM Act, and if the if the infractions were so severe to the extent that it has affected the economy of Ghana, and people are paying a huge price of it, then of course, the Attorney General must act on that.
So this is something that you are going to be looking into, or you have the Attorney General set up a team to probe and find out who has been violating this?
So first of all, we've begun a process to validate some claims at the Ministry of Finance. We inherited huge arrests and huge commitment. Arrests in excess of 67 billion Ghana cedis, this representing 5.2% of GDP. But it will surprise you to note that this 67.5 billion Ghana cedis, over 80% of this amount, the contract was awarded without commencement certificate.
So this is government contractors and suppliers.
Government contractors and suppliers. You see, and of this 67.5 billion cedis, we have 18 billion cedis plus sitting at the Controller and Accountant General, being payment that has been processed and waiting for payment, because the Minister of Finance then had signed and is sitting at the Controller and Accountant.
Why though? Why is it sitting there?
Well, it's sitting at the Controller and Accountant General because there's no cash to pay. There's no cash to pay.
So
and
whoever was signing
today, so they just signed it, but there was no cash available.
They didn't know at the time they were signing that there was no cash.
Well, I will not be able to make that statement. But the truth is, they knew that they had exceeded their ceilings for the year, but they still process. And 18.2 billion Ghana cedis is sitting at the Controller and Accountant General today, as I speak with you. Then we have another 49.2 billion Ghana cedis, also sitting at various MDAs, being work done, waiting for payment to the Controller and Accountant General, and obviously to Bank of Ghana for payment. So the two put together will give you 67.5 billion Ghana cedis, being outstanding claims that the government of Ghana had to pay. The first question is, do we have the money to pay that now?
So do we have the money?
Well, I don't think we have enough 67.5 billion to pay now, because these contracts were awarded without budget, two without allotment, and we do not have the space to accommodate them. We should provision for them. But before you make provision and before you start paying, the first thing you need to do is to validate it. In the budget, I've made provision for some 13 billion cedis to start paying down.
While you validate?
Even before I pay, I need to ensure that this amount is legitimate. And to assess the legitimacy of the amount, we will need to bring on board the Auditor General. So I've reached out to the Auditor General. I've asked him to commission an audit and validate the amount and advice before we can start paying.
And ultimately, you say that the Attorney General may have to get involved in prosecuting.
Because we need to. It is his decision to make that. I mean, it's.
But you pull the evidence before him if you find it.
The question is, we have to first of all identify the infractions. If we identify the infractions, we have to submit that to the Attorney General for advice. It is for the Attorney General to make that.
Tonight on Top Story, we're fleshing out the implications to previous managers of the economy. And thankfully, I have with me Francis Timoboy. He is a tax lawyer. He joins me live. Thank you so much for your time. I want to start with the legal implications, really. We've been hearing from the finance minister, just serve notice that the funds in this tax refund account were misapplied. More than 50% of the actual fund. Let's get some education. What are the potential penalties that individuals responsible could face?
So, firstly, if the allegations are true, as the minister is saying, then clearly that is a breach of the Revenue Application Act. If you look at Section 69, it says that not more than 6% of the tax revenue collected in a year should be set aside as a reserve in the revenue, the Ghana Revenue General Refund account. And the purpose of that reserve account is to pay for refunds for persons who might have overpaid a tax. It is only when, at the end of the year, there's a credit standing in that account, then the law says that we should transfer it into the consolidated fund. And you know how money transferred into consolidated funds are, utilized. You need to go through the appropriation process. It has to be budgeted before you can withdraw money from the consolidated fund. From what the minister is saying, it looks as if we painted the picture like we have used it for, refund payment, but it wasn't for refund payment. Something that should have gone into the consolidated fund, we didn't allow it to go there, and then we touch it. So I think that is a breach of the act, and some can even stretch it to mean that you have used money in the consolidated fund that didn't go through the right appropriation and the process through Parliament. So it's quite worrying.
And the question really is that what steps can we take to ensure that we prevent future misapplication of funds in the tax refund account?
So the people in charge, and here the Ministry of Finance should rather keep the eye on that account. You know, the law is very clear, and we are aware that many people, especially those who do export and the mining companies, who are genuinely entitled to refunds, but there are delays in refunding that amount to them. And, well, some will say that it is administrative procedure, but if at the end of the day we are delaying people who are entitled to refunds and we are not paying it to them just to more or less use a back door to get access to the money, which is supposed to even go through the consolidated fund, we go through Parliament in order to access the money in the consolidated fund. We just have to be careful that no refund is paid outside payment to taxpayers who have genuinely overpaid tax and they are entitled. The funny thing is that if they delay, sometimes there's no even interest paid on the tax that you have overpaid. We have the mining companies who are entitled, but if you delay, they don't get any interest on it. So just keep an eye on that refund account to the extent that any payment that comes out of it is actually for the payment of tax refund to taxpayers.
But at the heart of this really is public trust in the system. How do government restore public trust in its financial management practices following these revelations?
So I think one of the ways is to probably punish those who, breach some of these rules. Clearly, someone might have charged some money that is supposed to go through the consolidated fund for other purposes. The question is, why did we do that? Why didn't we go through the right process? So can that person be cited for breach of the the Financial Act? Yes, maybe. What are the consequences? Can we, exert the punishment on the persons who did that? Maybe something can be done. I'm aware. I mean, we all saw the special prosecutor's charges against some public officials, and one of them was the misuse of the refund account. Let's see how he deals with it, if it is really a breach and there's some evidence to support that he has breached some of these things. We need to build trust. People must believe that the delays in the release of the refund to people who genuinely are entitled to tax refunds is more not because we are using the money for something else, but we are going through the right processes to release the money to them.
Thank you. Stay with me. Let me bring in Kabiru Mahama. He's Member of Parliament and also member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Thank you so much for your time. And before Wale for joining us here on Top Story. I just want to get your initial reaction to this revelation by the Finance Minister. We've been hearing from a tax expert that as previous managers of the economy, you misapplied the funds in the tax refund account. And this amounts to breach of key acts, the violation of the Revenue Administration Act and the Public Financial Management Act. What's your response to that?
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me, and good evening to you and your cherished listeners. The Finance Minister came to Parliament to present the budget. In the presentation, he mentioned that some 12 billion has been used appropriately, while some 16.6 billion has been or have been misapplied. The question then is how.
We seem to have lost Kabiru Mahama. He's MP for Wale. He's also a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, just giving us his thoughts about this revelation we're hearing tonight that the Finance Minister, Dr. Akufo-Addo Fostina, revealed to us in that interview on PM Express last night, letting us know that more than half of the funds in the tax refund account has been misapplied. And we've been hearing from a tax expert tonight. He says that that is in clear violation of the Revenue Administration Act as well as the Public Financial Management Act. And we're trying to reconnect the lines to Kabiru Mahama just to get his thoughts. I'm told I have him now. Kabiru, please make your point.
Yeah, so I was saying that the Finance Minister comes to inform the
call has been put on hold. Please wait. 7%
of the funds that have been accumulated or accrued to the tax refund account have been, if you like, the 57% has been misapplied. Now, the question then is that 2 months in office, the finance minister has not been able to define the scope of misappropriation or misapplication of funds. We are left to decide how these funds have been used to be characterized as being misapplied. And I think this does not help. But
the end does not justify the means, really. The law is clear on what should be done when it comes to the money in that bank account. After you're done paying taxpayers, it ought to go to the consolidated fund. But then we're hearing from the finance minister says it was used as a slash fund. And I'm wondering why exactly that was done.
That it was used as a what?
Slash fund.
Slash fund. When you say fund, what does it mean by that?
Well, he was quite concerned. Well, in the basic term of it, a slash fund is an informal or secret pool of money and is used for unauthorized or questionable purposes. He said you use the money to pay contractors, which is not what the law actually says you should do.
That is true where we are left. The money is with GRA. The money with the GRA, GRA is the one collecting or putting this account into that sinking fund. Is it the Control Accountant General that is using the money to pay contractors? If you are suggesting that the finance minister stated that the money was used to pay contractors, you get the point I'm making. The finance minister has not provided Parliament, neither has he provided anyone the use for that money, which he has characterized as misapplication. It is the use that we will then look at and see whether or not those uses were actually misapplication of funds. We all know how this fund is supposed to use. Without the use, you transfer same to the consolidated account. Consolidated account is spent on appropriation, right? We know that, and we all know how this money is accrued and used. But if you come to inform the good people of Ghana that only 43% of the fund were used for the purpose of tax refund, but the remainder of 57 was misapplied. I mean, I will not contest that, but you have to provide me the very uses for which it was. Was it used to pay allowance of people? Was it used to pay? Let me know the details.
But the details really, does the detail really matter at this point? When the law is clear as to what exactly that money ought to be used for.
Now, what if the minister is lying? How do we know?
As we speak, the minister says that bank account is empty.
That's what if he's lying? How do we know?
Do you have evidence to prove he's lying?
If the fact that you don't have contra evidence, if I say that there was money in the account, what is the evidence to say that there was money? So
we had an interview with him yesterday on PM Express, and he revealed that that bank account is indeed empty.
Sarah, and I'm making the point that if you see the account was empty, this is the same government that told us that government did not leave any money, but we referred them to a money that was left in the main T-bill account. They said they didn't leave any money, but we referred them to money that was left in the sinking account. They said we did not leave any money. I mean, the debt to GDP, they mentioned all sort of accusation. And I'm saying that we should not even be taking their words or against ours. Will they allow us to publish the account? The intention of it, you should have asked them that, can you publish the account for the Ghana people to know?
But why should we take your words, really? When we're hearing from someone who is privy to the records, I'm saying, I want some explanation. I want some explanation. I'm sure the people of Ghana, they're also looking forward to some explanation as to why exactly the money in this bank account, more than 50%, and we're talking about 16.6 billion Ghana cedis, nowhere to be found. The finance minister says it has been misapplied.
You don't have evidence to suggest that money has been misapplied. You are only taking the words of the finance minister.
Saying, do you have contrary evidence to prove the finance minister wrong?
Your duty is to go and find out the use and to come and question us. Why did you use it for A, B, C, D? It's not for you to take the word of the finance minister and then subjecting me to then prove that it was not misapplied. He said it was misapplied. What proof did he give you? You get the point. So that is the work you are supposed to do. You are supposed to go and check the account, ask him to publish the account, and then you can then come on and we discuss this matter.
I want to get an understanding. Are you denying indeed that money has been misapplied?
I am saying that the finance minister has informed the country without any proof. You have not provided any proof to the effect that his statement is true, and you are now then coming to ask me to confirm or deny that. When you can simply do your job by asking them.
What is truth to you? What is truth? Tell us. What is truth to you, based on the information available to you?
We are in the search for the truth. The good people of Ghana deserve to know how their funds are being used. we all agree that we need to find closure. I disapprove any misapplication of state, and I will not be sitting here not involved in the spending of money and defend anyone. But just like I will not also sit down here for people representation to be dragged in the mud. The truth of the matter cannot be established by me or the finance minister. It has to take independent mind to go check the account, whether there's money or not, ask them to publish it, and then ask for the better users.
I want you to stay with me, and I just want to play this sound to you. That way it gives you some sort of clarity. The initial...
Hello?
Yeah.
Going into the ministry, I recall that in 2016, on behalf of my former boss, the Honorable Seth, we sent a bill to Parliament called the Revenue Administration Act. And as part of that act, we had proposed to Parliament to impose 6% of all revenue to be set aside for the purposes of tax refund. 6%. And then we left office in 2016. And so 2017 to date, the 6% had accumulated in total 26 billion cedis. This 26 billion, I asked the GRA and the Ministry of Finance to give me a breakdown of how this taxes and tax refund account has been used. To my surprise, only 43% of the resources that accumulated into that account was used for the purposes that it was supposed to be used for. Like, because of the nature and structure of the VAT, for example, there are times that you overpay, and then the tax authority will have to make sure that they refund you to encourage you to also pay your taxes. 43% was used largely for tax refund. And so largely less than 50% of the tax refund amount has been used for the purposes of tax refund. Then I came out to ask them a question. Can you tabulate for me year in, year out in the last 8 years how they have applied the 57%? To my surprise, once again, the money was largely misapplied and used for things that were not supposed to be used. And I said, this practice cannot continue. And so we are going to put a stop. And to put a stop, we said, okay, to start with, we'll take 2% of the 6% and bring it down to 4%. That 2% this year alone is giving me 3.8 billion cedis. The way and manner that account had been misused, we need to look into it. We definitely have to look into it, because this is against the PFM Act and it's against the Enabling Act, the Revenue Administration Act itself. And the way and manner that account has been abused and raped over the last 8 years is very regrettable.
It was 29.11 billion, out of which they've just used 43%. And I was doing the calculations. You have 16.61 billion that was unaccounted for.
Exactly.
In essence, over 8 years.
Over 8 years.
You actually allege that it has been abused and the funds misapplied, as in the excess
exactly
that was left in there. That's a serious accusation.
Oh, it's not serious accusation. I think it's gone past accusation. It's the fact. It's the fact. If you look at the Revenue Administration Act, it tells you what you have to use the tax refund account to. It gives you a clear indication and a clear guidelines and the way you should operate that account. Unfortunately, it has been used as a slush fund. Unfortunately. I don't want to go into the details as to how they use it, because
once you say misapplied, yes, you must know what they used it for.
Oh no, I know exactly what they used the money for. They were using it to pay for contractors as and when they feel that a contractor must be paid from that account, and they were paying it.
Is somebody going to be held accountable for this?
It is not up to me to hold people accountable.
Kabiru, I'm sure you've heard the finance minister. He was clear there. When he said you misapplied the funds, he said you used the money to pay contractors, and that's against the law. You ought to have put the money in the consolidated fund. The reason why I wanted you to listen to him, please make that point again. What's the stance that you're making?
Tax refund account, central government has no visibility to it. It is the GRA that has visibility to that account, and GRA does tax refund. So how come central government will use it to pay contractors? Some of these explanations, when people give them, you follow up with relevant questions. Central government does not have the authority to issue checks on that account. It's managed by the GRA. How does the GRA use it to pay contractors?
And so your point is really?
Yeah, ma'am, the point is for Ghanaians to know that if you are saying tax refund account,
are you saying that the finance minister lied to Ghanaians? Is that what you're saying?
I said the mathematics of it doesn't even make sense. You tell Ghanaians that you are going to reduce it by 4%, as if to say that the money is lying down somewhere waiting for you. It's a factor of the availability of taxable income and whether or not non-oil tax revenue would even come. If your revenue performs badly, the tax refund component will also perform badly. But you come to tell Ghanaians as if this is money lying down, you are going to reduce it and the money will come. That does not even make sense to start with. But that is not even what we are discussing. Today, you are calling to discuss whether or not the money really accrued and whether or not it was misapplied. All right. So we would, in the course of time, even discuss the logic of that particular statement he mentioned on the floor of Parliament, as if to say that all the time non-tax revenue will perform. So I'll get all the time the 3 billion. That is the analysis the finance minister came to make to the good of Ghana, but that is even flawed. That said, if you say that account was supposed to be held by the GRA, and you ask the GRA, and the GRA is using to pay contract, GRA does not award central government contract. The central government contract is awarded by MMDAs. How could they have visibility to use it to pay contractors? So it doesn't make sense. And that explanation, I even feel that he reluctantly gave you that explanation after when Evans pushed him to give him the reason. And he can just say contractors, for what work? Central government does not get itself involved in that account.
Kabiru Mahama, he's MP for Waliwali, and earlier we spoke to Francis Boy, he's a tax lawyer. And that's how we wrap up Top Story tonight. We leave these ideas in the minds of Ghanaians as they judge. My name is Fostina Sarfo. Up next is Just Night.
And more from the budget yesterday, and the finance minister. A government shoots down Bank of Ghana's 53 billion cedis financial rescue request as it suggested the central bank to sell off valuable assets to finance recapitalization efforts.
You know, you've seen their new head office, very big building. They have a choice to sell and lease back if they want to. They have to look within and cut expenditure and reduce. The taxpayer cannot afford 53 billion Ghana cedis.
We have details as government's unwillingness to bail out the central bank puts Ghana on a collision course with the IMF, which expects government and the central bank to work out a plan. We hear also from consultants who want former managers to be held accountable.
Whoever created that mess must be responsible, personal responsibility. Mr. Ofuriatta and his governor or his governors.
That makes sense. Standard procedure for an institution that has run into the kind of problems that the central bank has run.
Was the betting tax ever implemented or collected by the previous government? Stay tuned as we fact-check claims made by the former finance minister.
We will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winning from lottery, otherwise known as the betting tax.
Betting tax that they said they have abolished. We never collected betting tax.
But on the streets, it's a sign of relief for many bet enthusiasts.
Those 10% being removed from the tax that you win has been costing us a lot due to the hardships. This time, most people have not been betting.
Also later tonight, President Mahama takes his swipe at the Akufo-Addo administration, saying the number of political appointees at the presidency has been significantly reduced in line with the lean government promise.
At the last count, there were 336 political appointees at the presidency under the previous government. While we're in the process of recruiting supporting staff to enable the full functioning of our presidency, the numbers will come nowhere near the army of people that were hired under the previous government.
And later, why is former finance minister Ken Oforiatta suing some security operatives? We have the details for you in business.
President John Mahama insists policy measures outlined in the 2025 budget will help create the needed jobs, whilst highlighting government's commitment to fiscal discipline.
And in sports, Kumasi Asante Kotoko secure narrow victory over Division 1 side 11 Wise to advance to the quarterfinals of the MTN FA Cup in the outstanding game.
You want to join us with your views and comments here on Newsnight 05511119997. Details after the break.
why we connect each child. You know, be say we won't make one our loved ones happy.
Daddy, thanks for the tea cash, okay? I love you.
That be my daughter, Angela. Say I go take care of my parents, it be my duty. Say make I pay my bills. I dey use Telecel cash. The suppliers for my shop there.
Hello boss, I get a Telecel cash alert too. They deliver the things right here.
And they make them happy because I fit pay them directly to my merchant number for any network talk. Then sort my people out with Telecel cash for free.
If one of family parties, them business partners they happy. It be they make one a connection strong. Carry Telecel cash, send money, give your people for them a Telecel cash wallet store. Any day, anytime. It be free. Make you save money. Tap cool. Then make your menace smile. Anytime you go carry Telecel cash, send them money.
Telecel, connecting energies.
Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. Me I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, me dana mada with holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito coil, holy multi-purpose insecticide spray. Dana kron kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302 681582. This advert is FDA approved.
Where do your hopes and dreams take flight? The money you've earned, the future shining bright. At Petra, we're not just here for your retirement plan. We are here for the life you've imagined and then some. From your child's education to your dream home's door, we'll help you achieve what you're striving for. Petra is here, steady and strong. Your wealth in safe hands, where it belongs. With investments that grow at rates that compete, we build your future with every heartbeat. That's Petra, your partner. Come joy or strife, guiding you toward the dreams that define your life. For your pensions, investments, loans, and more, visit our website at petraonline.com or dial *447 *70#. Petra, achieve more.
And you're live here on News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. The Finance Ministry has shut down the Bank of Ghana's request for a 53 billion cedi bailout, instead directing the central bank to explore internal solutions, including selling its newly built headquarters at Alleges. The Bank of Ghana has been reeling from a staggering 70 billion cedi loss, largely due to a 50% haircut from the controversial domestic debt exchange program under the Akufo-Addo administration. And the Finance Minister, Dr. Kaisala Tafosing, insists the government cannot step in just yet. It stands that not only leaves the central bank in financial turmoil, but also puts Ghana on the collision course with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The IMF had expected the government and the central bank to work out a recapitalization plan, but with no bailout in sight, tensions are mounting over how the regulator will restore its financial health.
Bank of Ghana had generated so much debt, so much deficit. As a result, their balance sheet is not healthy, and that they have generated negative equity. Apparently, the previous administration in the Bank of Ghana had signed an MOU for the government of Ghana or the taxpayer to recapitalize the central bank with 53 billion Ghana cedis.
Do you have the money?
I've asked the Bank of Ghana to look within, cut expenditure, because the taxpayer cannot afford 53 billion. I've communicated that to the government.
But they already have an agreement with government.
First of all, they have to look within. You know, you've seen their new head office, very big building. They have a choice to sell and lease back if they want to. They have to look within and cut expenditure and reduce. Evans, the taxpayer cannot afford 53 billion Ghana cedis. Giving 53 billion Ghana cedis to the central bank will simply mean that we will have to deny the taxpayer some public good, like roads, like schools, like hospitals. Is that what we want? Can we afford it at this stage? The question is no. The answer is no. We cannot be able to afford that. And so the central bank must look within. They have hotels like Guest House and others. Why are they in Guest House? Can they sell some of them and use the money to recapitalize? Taxpayer cannot be used as a punching bag. So I have said to them they should look within. Luckily for me, the governor is on board. And I expect the governor to look within and cut expenditure, reflect the needs of the bank.
If they come to you with, their share of the bargain, would you meet them halfway? Or you want them to
the central bank
fine all 53 billion?
If the central bank is able to come to me with a reasonable offer, we can have a conversation.
Okay.
But it must start from them. And I have also said that they may also have to consider plowing back their profit over the next 10 years to recapitalize it. That can also be done. It depends.
But what is the implication if they don't do this quickly? Can they survive?
It is not a problem. The bank can survive. See, first of all, what they need to do is to, as soon as possible, generate enough cash to be able to run the affairs of the bank, which I believe they are doing that. All over the world, you've seen some central banks that have survived with negative equity. So it's not out of order.
Well, as the central bank scrambles for solution, the financial sector watchers are anxious, fearing ripple effects that could destabilize the economy. Let's understand the Bank of Ghana's situation a bit more. Lead data analyst Isaac Kofi joins me in the studio with details of this. And we've been poring over some of the documents that we know have implications for this whole issue. That appears to be a stand-up on this particular matter. The central bank will have to find the money internally, and they've been told you have 10 years, plow back your profits. But there's an IMF catch there that we also need to explore on this particular side. But let's start with the impact of the domestic debt exchange on the Bank of Ghana, where this all started. The central bank had issued a statement back last year telling us how they came to accrue this huge debt. 60 billion it was.
What we are actually learning is that if you look at the DDEP program, in terms of the institutions that decided to take haircuts, the Bank of Ghana in the domestic space was one of the giants who took a 50% haircut by participating 100% and exchanging some 70 billion Ghana cedis. What we are understanding or learning is that if you look at the impairment or what Bank of Ghana had to forgo in terms of haircut was close to 32 billion Ghana cedis. And according to the Bank of Ghana itself, this plus some of the forex losses they suffered in 2022 and 2023 actually plunged the bank into that $60 billion cedis, debt or losses in 2022 and 10 billion loss in 2023. So together, they made a loss of close to 70 billion Ghana cedis in 2 years.
The IMF flagged these challenges. Apparently, we are learning an agreement was struck. In fact, the finance minister hinted at this on my show yesterday.
If we go to the most current IMF report, which is the December report on Ghana, page 56 of that document has the recapitalization of the central bank. And quote, they say that when they say we, they are referring to the government of Ghana, commenting that we are preparing for the recapitalization of the BOG due to the adverse impact of the DDEP. Now, there were actually 4 options that were available to the government in terms of the recapitalization. The first option was that the government told the fund that we are, quote, preparing for the recapitalization of the BOG due to the adverse impact, and they went ahead to list the options that were available to the government. The first one was to recapitalize through budgetary allocations. Second one is to either they sell or they transfer some of their assets. And the third option was the suspension of profit transfers. And the last one was the use of any buffers generated in program implementation. So there were 4 options. And just by listening to the finance minister, the indication is that possibly the BOG was looking forward to the first option, which is that government should fund this 53 billion Ghana cedis.
And once it's in that particular document, then it means the IMF already knows that it's very likely that depending on the choice that the government, of course, working with the BOG, they settle on, it could be one of the 4. And it could mean selling off the assets to fix the particular hole that they have, 53 billion.
Now, according to the IMF, whatever option we take, it must actually fall within the program's parameters, and so you cannot deal, you cannot actually forgo this agreement that we have with the fund. What we have to do is to do the gradual recapitalization of the bank, either by using one of the options or combining some to make sure that that 53 billion, cedis is actually met and the negative equity of the bank is reversed to the normal level.
Well, we've been speaking to banking consultant Dr. Richmond Detiahene, who says former managers of the economy must be held accountable.
It means a lot. It means a lot. And we should not take it for granted. Like the minister said, you don't create a mess and leave the mess to come and clean the mess. And I agree with the minister perfectly that whoever created that mess must be responsible, personal responsibility. Because when they did finance physical, what we call the monetization of fiscal deficit in 2021-2022, some of us told them that what they are doing is going to lead us into where we are. But they didn't listen to us. Now, a whole central bank, we need $3 billion. And if you listen to the minister, $3 billion. Not million, $3 billion. How are we going to get $3 billion? Because IMF loan givers, the whole loan is $3 billion. How are you going to get the money? So for me, I agree with the minister perfectly with that. This is not a time for anybody to do the recapitalization. They either look from inside and do cutting and restructuring and even sales lease back, as he said, the property.
Well,
other than that, the minister cannot have any physical space to give $3 billion to finance the Bank of Ghana.
Assalamualaikum, brothers and sisters.
I want to bring in right now Kojo Nkrumah, who is a minority spokesperson on the economy. It joins us on the line pretty shortly. And we'll also be hearing from some officials of the Bankers Association. They have a stake in all this. We'll get your thoughts on that subject also. So live here on News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. We've been hearing from players in the financial sector generally, though. Joe Jackson has been speaking to us. You know him, he is a Chief Executive Officer of Daily Finance, and he's been talking about the challenge that the regulator finds itself in right now.
Some of us will say recklessness on the part of the managers of the central bank, because the challenge you have is this: when you pump that amount of money into the economy, when the central bank runs the kind of deficit that we're talking about, it's plain and simple inflationary. And some of us may argue that the inflation pain we are facing today is a result of that reckless behavior and running down the finances of the central bank. So, it's plain and simple. If a central bank wraps up these losses in the space of a year or two, what will happen? But inflation. So, every single Ghanaian suffered from those reckless acts. But on a good note, I think the proposal to do a sale and lease back of the central bank's building is in the right direction.
You support the call for some kind of a leasing, or better still, the Bank of Ghana to sell off this property?
Think about it this way. Right now, the cost of the building is capital expenditure, and it is tax that has been sunk into a building. The central bank needs to create more liquidity for itself. What should they do? Should take the building, find somebody to say, I will sell you that building, and in return, I will become your anchor tenant. So the central bank will receive cash, goes to shore it up, and then starts to pay rent for the building. That makes sense. Standard procedure for an institution that has run into the kind of problems that the central bank has run. Remember, the bank's problems means that the market outside will look at us with jaundiced eyes if our central bank is running the kind of deficit that it has. In fact, that's why the central bank is saying, you bail me out, because they know that in the crisis that we have and where we are going, having a central bank that is insolvent does not make sense. And it will hamper our efforts to go to the market.
The controversy that erupted on the back of the budget statement yesterday was the controversy around the betting tax. Let's focus on the claims on the implementation of the betting tax and collection in Ghana made by the former finance minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, after the budget presentation yesterday. This was after the finance minister announced plans to abolish the tax on the floor of Parliament yesterday.
We will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winning from lottery, otherwise known as the betting tax.
Well, in reaction to this, the former minister made the claims, and my colleague Isaac Kofi-Addo joins me in the studio with some more on what he and had been looking at, but also a bit more on what Amin Adam had said, right? What exactly did he say?
Well, so Evans, he was very categorical yesterday during the press conference, and he said that the NPP administration did not collect the betting tax, and that was his claim that was made yesterday. And per our checks, available data from the GRA, or the Ghana Revenue Authority, shows that this claim is misleading. Why do we say so? Because in fact, there is what we call the gross gaming, revenue, and then also a bigger tax handle called the, gaming and betting tax. Now, under this big tax umbrella, there are three components. The first one is a gross gaming revenue, which was the first phase to be actually rolled out in May of 2023. This was more or less like a corporate income tax for the betting companies to pay. Then the government in August 2023 brought in the phase 2 of implementation of this new tax handle, which the phase 2 actually focused on winnings. And we have to emphasize winnings, or withholdings on winnings from betting. So in fact, that was also carried out in August of 2023, and that was a 10% that was placed on the winnings of those who participated or possibly in sports betting. Phase 3, which was to rope in the lotto operators, about 1,200 of them. In fact, that would have made the entire tax handle holistic, and government was expecting in excess of 1 billion, Ghana cedis from this arrangement. But what we are learning is that because of the dominance of NLA in the public lottery business, they opposed to, this 10% placement on the withholding, and said that if you decide to tax our client 10% on their winnings, what you're going to do is that you're going to give our client to the private guy, and that will price out NLA. And so government decided to delay the implementation of the phase 3. But what we know is that it will be inaccurate for anybody to say that the betting tax was not implemented. In fact, if you go through the Ghana Revenue Authority, according to data that we have from them, the betting tax, which was started in 2023, raked in some 51.3 million Ghana cedis in 2023, and then came 2024 that the tax handle got some 147.76 million Ghana cedis. If you add all of this, since the betting tax was actually introduced, or perhaps if you want to put it, the 10% on withholding on betting winnings, that tax revenue has raked in close to 200 million Ghana cedis in just 2 years. Now, the betting industry itself is, the government actually benefits a lot from the betting industry, because the total taxes that the betting industry paid in 2024 is almost 500 million Ghana cedis. And so, Evans, it will be misleading for anybody to say that government never went ahead to collect betting tax. The only component that was not carried out was the lottery aspect of the gaming and betting tax, Evans.
So there you have it. If you missed what Amin Adam said, this was his point yesterday at the press conference shortly after the budget.
Ladies and gentlemen, betting tax that they said they have abolished. We never collected betting tax. We never implement the betting tax. So to come and tell Ghanaians that you have abolished something that was not implemented is to deceive the people of Ghana.
And Kofi, I know you are a betting enthusiast. Some of them have been speaking to us already. I know you're smiling because this is something that you know very, very well. Is this something that you've experienced yourself, that the tax was implemented?
If you speak to some
winnings?
of the investors, myself, no, but because I don't bet. But I mean, if you speak to some of the investors, what they will tell you, and they've shown us their slips. And in fact, what we've seen is that the deduction has been going on, and the GRA document that they shared with us has actually affirmed that government was actually collecting the betting tax. And in 2 years, they've collected close to 200 million Ghana cedis from this tax.
Well, listen to some of them talk to us.
Oh, it's a good news for Ghanaians, simply because all young men have been betting, even the older people have been betting due to the hardships we are facing at the moment. So it's a good news for us. Those 10% being removed from the tax that you win has been costing us a lot due to the hardships.
When last did you win?
Oh, I won about 2 months ago.
Was it like how much?
It's about 5,000.
Wow, so you had to pay government 10% of the 5?
Yeah. Which is costing us a lot. So this time, most people have not been betting. So once the government has announced that, the present NDC government has announced that he has removed the tax, it's a good news to young men.
I mean, when you say because first, you travel at no one here, Intina, Impo, Kakrebiano, it me in a paper. I see, I say, a question being put as a baby free sport to only 10% free Mintinema, it me for Scout Baby Uncle, a bet accounts room to me in Cabindi. Is a bet no, it me trying to face no, and it is so my free.
So he's very excited.
So a few betting enthusiasts, they're having a conversation with us about the betting tax. And if you've also experienced the tax on your account, if you are one of those who like betting on games, for example, share your thoughts with us, 055-1111-997. So listen to News Studies on Joy 99.7 FM. And today we're learning from lawyers of former Finance Minister Akufo-Addo that he has sued now, gone to court and dragged a few security operatives before the courts, demanding damages for trespassing on his home. It follows the raid on his home last month that generated a fair bit of controversy. It forced the majority leader to apologize to him. Now he's taking legal action. My colleague Latif Idris is here in the studio with details of this. What more do we know?
Yeah, so just to go back to the point you just made, on the 12th of February, some pictures started making rounds on social media, and in those pictures you will find armed security operatives. Some of them armed, some unarmed, some in uniform, some in plain clothes. And in those pictures, you would find them at the residence of the former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who at that time was out of the jurisdiction. And so we thought this was just a social media stint, and then that ended it. Today, we've gotten notice that the former finance minister has directed his lawyers to sue the security operatives who raided, and that is the operative word that is being used, raided his residence here in Accra. And I'll just run us quickly through the statement of claim that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta is making through his lawyers. He says he wants the court to make a declaration that the defendant's entry upon and conduct of a search on plaintiff's property with house number 25 Akolebu CR GL-041-2486 Laboni in Accra on the 11th of February 2025 was trespassery and a breach of plaintiff's right to privacy. B. Damages for trespass. C. Aggravated damages for breach of privacy. D. Perpetual injunction restraining the defendants, whether by themselves, agents, assigns, from entering upon plaintiff's property and or further breaching plaintiff's privacy or repeating similar or other conduct against plaintiff. And finally, he's also asking for costs to be awarded to him because he feels that he's had some trauma following the raid by these security operatives.
Specifics. We learned a few more details about the raid itself. One thing I didn't know before is that the individuals who allegedly raided the home asked the domestic staff not to use your phones.
Exactly.
It didn't state here that they seized the phones, but they prevented them from using their phones. And then also, we're also learning the exact number of individuals who raided the home. It provides a bit more detail around that to the courts.
Yeah.
Right? That we're also learning about today. Then also, if you go to the in terms of the number of individuals who went, some of them military. Say it talks about 9 military personnel.
Yeah, 9 military personnel carrying assault rifles and other menacingly looking individuals in plain clothes.
And also we learned that they also went with what they call a videographer.
Yeah,
who was filming as they searched
everywhere.
Yes,
everywhere.
And they gave us a bit more detail of where they searched in the home. They searched his car, his fridge, his freezer, his cupboards, closets, plates, and car. I'm wondering what they were looking for in the plates. They said the cutlery, the kitchen, the open spaces. They went to the bedroom as well, and they were generally on the compound. So they searched everywhere, and they searched while this individual filmed. He wasn't there, but he claims that after this has left the domestic staff traumatized.
And in fact, and most importantly, they did all of these, according to this, without any form of warrant.
So that's the rates filed. But who are the individuals that he's dragged before the court now?
Yeah, so he's trying to get some security operatives whose names have been listed in the rates of summons. So you have DSP Bismarck Boache Ansa. You also have Chief Inspector Mensah, that is AKA Sir Mensah, both of Accra. So these are the two security operatives.
But when this first emerged, we heard about Jakba. In fact, they even showed us pictures from him. I mean, the MPP showed us pictures of him with videos, etc., that he was at home. It was part of the raid, but he's not part of this suit.
Yeah, that is curious.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, Latif. I want to bring in Martin Kwebu, paralegal practitioner, and following this very closely, joins us on the line right now. You've seen the raid, I believe. Knowing what we now know, considering that his home was raided, we saw the videos and the pictures that were circulated. You've seen his raid. Your thoughts?
Yes, Evans, I have. My thoughts on it. Yes, so Evans, cut to the chase. You see, unfortunately, we have an old law that allows police to conduct such a search. It's not desirable at all, right? But the law does permit. So that's why, let's go straight. We are talking about Section 94. So this case that Ufurata is filed is going to bring this law into focus, and perhaps it will increase the calls for the review of the law. So Section 94 of the Act 30 makes provision for a police officer not below the rank of ASP to enter a property without a warrant to search. We are going to read through. Or, and even apart from that, such an officer or above can authorize a junior officer to enter a property to search. So let's read it. It says, so there are two parts. The entering is one, and then two, the search. So listen, it says, a police officer not below the rank of Assistant Superintendent of Police, or who being below the rank is authorized in writing to do so by a police officer not below that rank, may enter a house, shop, warehouse, yard, ship, boat, vessel, beach, or any other premises which the police officer has reasonable cause to believe contains property which has been stolen or dishonestly received. So the one we just read is for entry. So if the person enters, you can't say once he meets this criteria, ASP, or if he's below ASP, then he's been authorized by an ASP or above, including the IGP. Then two, the police officer may search for, search for, seize, and secure the property which the police officer has reasonable cause to believe has been stolen or dishonestly received, as if the police officer had a search warrant and the property seized corresponded to the property described in the warrant. So the two is for searching.
Except that
I
in this instance, the men who raided his home, he says in this raid were military officers, 9 of them. So they were not police officers.
No, he sued the police officer. So the military men are described in there, but they are not the subject of the suit. So I see they said GSP, is there Ansa, and then another one, Chief. Is that the phone I'm using? We can go over. You see some 2 names. He didn't sue the police, the military.
And what's your thoughts on that? That he, in the statement of facts, talks about 9 military officers, but when he's suing, he isolates only 2 police officers.
Yes, it's good to give context. Now, when it comes to those military people, that place is very slippery. The situation is even worse when you go to the Intelligence and Securities and Intelligence Agencies Act. So, as I mentioned, the law is generally in a state of, it's archaic. We don't like it. I know even when I was in law school about 20 years ago, people were against this and that. No, we should not allow police to come into a premises without warrant, etc. But I graduated 18 and a half years ago, and the law is still the same. You meet judges in court asking us, hey, Martin, what are you guys doing about Act 30? The law is so archaic. But trust me, for this one, the police can, if they want to rely on it, unless they want to say, well, that's not the law they were relying on. And even Latif, your officer, Latif, who got beaten at the premises of the police and life-threatening injuries, the police haven't admitted they are wrong, much less this one. It will be interesting that the police will just say, well, we throw in the towel. That would be extremely interesting. Then in that case, we'll be asking that they throw in the towel in respect of Latif, who has received permanent injuries. That's Latif Idrisu, your own reporter at Joy FM, right? So the law is in a state of, there's a very bad state. Yes, I wanted to say state of disrepair. It's in a bad state. It's archaic. This one is 1960 at 30, but it is still law. It's still law. So, and when you come, the military people, let's not run ahead. But if we when we get there, we'll cross that bridge. Use some protection for them too under the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act. But you hold our horses.
Yeah, Martin, thank you very much. Martin Pebu is a lawyer, and you still listen to News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. And George Jaffe is here with the very latest from the world of business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And President John Mahama insists policy measures outlined in the 2025 budget will help create the needed jobs, whilst highlighting government's commitment to fiscal discipline. And Finance Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo rejects claims of lack of prudent spending after total appropriation reached 291 billion Ghana cedis for last year. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. Synthesis tanks and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
MNC Group is a leading investment holding company with expertise in mineral and food commodities trading, precious metal refinery, real estate development, logistics, and energy. With individually registered companies, our headquarters is located in Accra, Ghana, with our operational offices in Dubai, UAE, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou in China, Johannesburg, South Africa, Virginia, United States of America, and Milan, Italy. We connect business markets and drive growth. Trust us to maximize value in every deal.
Call us on 030-255-1917 or 030-255-1918. Send us an email at mncgroup@mncgroupgh.com.
MNC Group, totally reliant. Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Hey, dear Niham Sa. And you stay soft concentrate fabric softener. I was such it move. You're sending this say, but you hear me to now check. New it's now check. No, be a baby, someone some demon in our say. Dear Niham say. Fair quiet, yes, in Biara Association Ontario. Use stay soft and you hear it now check. Nani boss to tap from cry. A fabric softener. And you near say, sir. Choose to stay soft. No, who's so say, no. FDID a dreading crack to yet.
They were sentenced, but their stories were never told.
Amina Bukari Amin. No! Amina, you have to let me go. I don't want to go. Amina, I don't want to go, please. Amina, you have to. Please, Amina, you are free. You have to. No woman.
Image Bureau, Pepro Communications, and Joy FM in partnership with the UN Family in Ghana and led by the Joint United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS present Beyond the Walls, a story of stigma, survival, and the fear of freedom. Is set in the Nsawam Female Prison, National Theatre, 29th and 30th March, 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. each day. Tickets selling now at 200 cedis only at www.imagebureaugh.com or dial *714*46#. Beyond the Walls, supported by New Plant Car Rentals, Aquaba Mineral Water, and proudly brought to you by UNICEF and Stanbic Bank.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, President John Mahama has maintained that the policy measures rolled out in the 2025 budget will help create the needed jobs in the country. Finance Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo announced several initiatives that should bring some relief to businesses as well as other government projects that should help in expanding the economy. The President noted that various programs announced demonstrate their commitment to fiscal discipline as well.
These policies are also aimed at ensuring improvement in education, healthcare, roads, energy, agriculture, trade and agribusiness, and other areas, all with the overarching objective of creating jobs for our people. The budget also provided specific allocated funds for all the commitments we made in the 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana. We found resources for the major infrastructure projects under our Big Push agenda, as we have also for the no academic fees policy, for the National Apprenticeship Program, for the Jumara Program, seed money for the Women's Development Bank, and the 1 million Coders Program, among many others.
President John Mahama, now Finance Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo, has rejected arguments that he failed to use the budget to demonstrate government commitment to prudent spending. Now, this was after total appropriation for this year stood at 291 billion Ghana cedis. Now, this is more than the 250 billion Ghana cedis realized in 2024. The development has raised a lot of concerns about government's commitment to fiscal discipline, as well as containing the rising debt stock. But the finance minister disagrees. He argues that this actually wasn't put out well.
In the year 2024, we had not resumed the servicing of certain debt. Today we have resumed. And so it is not always appropriations that you use to make that analysis. There's something we call primary expenditure. That is what we throw out to the primary deficit. So the reason why we do that is that segregate debt servicing, because it's a given. You have already accumulated X amount of debt and you have to pay. You can't cut that expenditure. It is only, for example, the TB rate that based on the activities, you can reduce it downwards. But the other debt, like the debt restructuring that was done recently, you have already restructured the debt and you have to pay. And you are now beginning to pay, so you have to pay. But the cut that we have the power to cut has to do with primary expenditure. And primary expenditure has come down. If you can inform the person to look out for primary expenditure, he will understand what primary expenditure is and the cut that we have made.
And that is Finance Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo. Now, tax analyst Francis Timoboy has indicated that there could be some justification of a government decision to delay the removal of the COVID-19 levy. Now, Finance Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo announced that scrapping about 5 taxes. However, it excluded the COVID-19. Mr. Timoboy notes that the government maybe has a plan on how to reform the whole tax structure before it is removed.
Myself, I'm also not too sure why they couldn't take the bold decision to, scrap it just like they've done for the e-levy. But overall, it looks like they want to have some discussion with the IMF, assess whether removing it can cause some trouble. Because if you look at the total projections that they did from now to 2027, that the COVID-19 is likely to bring around 14 billion Ghana cedis. And so if you need money to complete hospital projects, IMF can advise that let's maintain it and then use to complete the project. But let's see how things unfold. I think that they may have decided to postpone the immediate abolishment because they want to see how they are going to perform over the next period. By mid-year budget, we should see some recommendations from the tax reform, the VAT reform task force on the COVID-19.
Francis Timoboy is a tax analyst. Now, SIC Insurance saw its profit before tax reach some new levels for last year. The audited financials released by the insurance showed that its profit before tax hit 80.5 million Ghana cedis for last year compared to 25 million Ghana cedis posted in 2023. Insurance revenue stood at 513 million Ghana cedis for last year, that is 2024. Now, President of the Ghana Association of Restructuring and Insolvent Advisors, Akufo-Addo, has maintained that it might be difficult for government to restore the licenses of defined commercial banks. It follows a fresh appeal by owners of these banks that their licenses should be restored based on an initial promise by this administration. But Mr. Addo maintains that the issue about confidence and reputational issues may make it difficult for this move to be actually actualized.
If today these licenses are restored, what the ordinary reasonable person would do, depositor, is to go into the bank and as quickly as possible pull out all his deposits in the bank.
It is for that reason some have also made proposals that we should give shares in the merged entities, like giving part of Consolidated Bank Ghana to them.
They are willing to do so. But trust me, if I were the person, I would take my 100% of my money, just like the Euro bonds, right? If government gives me the opportunity today, I would take my 100%.
President of the Ghana Association of Restructuring and Insolvency Advisors, Akufo-Addo, speaking to my colleague Pius Kojo-Baka. And that is all for business on Newsnight. And it's time for sports.
Yes, now in sports, Kumasi Asante Kotoko advanced to the quarterfinals of the ongoing FA Cup after defeating Division 1 side 11 Wise by a goal to nil in the game that took place earlier today at the Babara Sports Stadium. Well, it was an outstanding game that Kotoko had to play to finalize the teams that have advanced to the quarterfinals now. And Kotoko will be facing another Division 1 side in True Democracy FC in the quarterfinal fixtures that will happen later this month. Now, to some, related stories, this one has to do with former Ghana international. And you remember that English defender Jamie Carragher, some, days ago, berated the African Cup of Nations tournament when he, made comments regarding Mohamed Salah, when he was discussing Mohamed Salah, and suggested that the AFCON was not a major tournament, comparing it to regional competitions like the Gold Cup and the Asian Games. Well, former Bayern Munich Ghana international Sami Kufuor is the latest to hit back at Jamie Carragher for downplaying the significance of the African Cup of Nations tournament, insisting that the Liverpool player must apologize to Africans for the comments. Well, the former Ghana international has been speaking to Kelvin Owusu-Ansah of Sport FM.
Jamie Carragher, has he won a man of the match in his career before? Has he been selected in the best player of the league before?
No.
First 11. Has he been selected the best defender in Europe before? No. He hasn't been in the team of the week before. Come on. Yeah. So if Jamie Carragher is talking, those are the things that we don't listen.
Yeah.
Ferdinand, John Terry, and those people, they're supposed to talk, not you. What has he achieved? Jimmy Carragher, please. He has to respect us, because how many African players have made a great impact in Premier League?
Yeah.
He is talking about the coaches to win the Premier League. Did he play? When he was playing, did he win Premier League?
No.
So what is he talking about? Some of us, like me for instance, I never had my chance to win the African Cup of Nations. It kills me every day.
Yeah.
It kills me every day, because there is nothing that I can show to my children.
Yeah.
How many great players have won that title?
Very difficult.
So please, a very difficult tournament to play, because we know each other. The strength is good, the technique is good, the understanding of the game is always the same. Ghana, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria. You can never underrate anyone when you play against it, and when they play against each other. So what is he talking about?
Jamie Carragher.
Yeah, man, Jamie Carragher.
He was a bang average player.
Bang average.
Playing for Liverpool.
He asked him whether he has ever won man of the match before.
Very good question. The last time I was watching him post one of the Champions League matches, and he went on there was a sprint between himself and I Show Speed. Even that, he lost.
My goodness. Anyway, there are a few Champions League games coming up tonight. Borussia Dortmund will play Lille. Aston Villa got a big one against Club Brugge. But the big one tonight is Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid, of course. Real Madrid going into the game with a 2-1 advantage, and we're all waiting to see how that will unfold. We've got live commentary for you on here. It's 103.9 FM in some minutes. Time, I think the game is at 7:30 thereabout. So yeah, we'll got commentary for you.
Thank you very much. Now, rising temperatures caused by climate change are severely impacting poultry farming in the Doma East district of the Bono region, with farmers reporting significant losses due to heat stress in recent months. As temperatures soared, poultry mortality rates spiked, endangering both livelihoods and food security. In response, the Department of Agriculture has introduced interventions to help farmers mitigate the effects of extreme heat. Now, these include the adoption of cooling systems to regulate temperatures in poultry houses, providing much needed relief to the birds and significantly reducing mortality rates. Mohammed Nuruddin has more in this report for Climate Focus.
Extreme heat has devastated farmers here at Doma East, wiping out flocks and leaving many with losses or even debt. In the face of adversity, these farmers have found hope and innovation in the most unlikely of places. Christiana is one of the poultry farmers.
Heat stress impacts our finances significantly. It results in high mortality rate, causes the eggs to become very soft and break easily, and leads to reduced egg production. The veterinary team led by Robert is doing an excellent job, and they visit regularly without needing to be invited.
Farmers like Christiana, alongside many others in Doma East, are adopting new cooling systems to protect their investments. These systems reduce the deadly heat stress that claimed so many poultry in previous years. Here is Thompson.
When the drinking water becomes hot, it can contribute to heat stress. So I decide not to use the iron sheets for roofing the water tank. Instead, I planted trees around the tank to provide shade. I use that cooler water to supply to the birds. With the high temperatures now, we have always added ash blocks to the birds' drinking water. This helps cool their systems, offering them relief from the heat just like humans.
In addition to cooling systems, the farmers are also planting trees around their poultry houses. The trees serve as a natural shade and wind breaks, further lowering temperatures in and around the poultry farms. This combination of cooling techniques and tree planting is proving to be an effective solution. Farmers are already reporting positive results.
Climate Focus is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
Well, the Mahama administration is taking steps to provide funding for free dialysis and treatment of other non-communicable diseases in Ghana. According to the World Health Organization, non-communicable diseases account for approximately 45% of deaths in the country, with cardiovascular diseases responsible for 19% and 5% for cancers. Health Minister Mensah today inaugurated a 9-member technical task force to ensure improvement of the country's healthcare infrastructure and ease the financial burden on patients battling chronic illness like kidney disease. Now, Mensah today also criticized the previous MPP government for failing to establish a dedicated funding source for free dialysis treatment. He emphasized the urgent need for a sustainable alternative to the National Health Insurance Scheme to ensure its stability and prevent collapse.
I was a ranking member on the health committee, so there was no sustainable sources of funding for the dialysis. It never happened. I was a ranking member on the committee, and at the time we even suggested to make provision for dialysis, and they allocated 2 million Ghana cedis, and they had to go and take about additional 2 million from corporate social responsibility. I can tell you 4 million Ghana cedis cannot take care of dialysis in the whole country. So they need to be a sustainable and a reliable sources of funding. Look, if we decide to put all manner of disease on the National Health Insurance Scheme, it will collapse. You have no idea about how it costs to treat a heart disease or chronic disease, surgeries and what have you. We can't afford to put all these diseases on the National Health Insurance. That's why there's a need for us to provide this special purpose vehicle, a reliable one, so that if you are confronted with this chronic disease, it will not be the case that because you cannot afford the treatment, you then be nearing your grave.
Mensah is a health minister. In our Ghana Man series today, we take you to Imampehia, a town whose name meaning women do not like poverty. Indeed, that's a story of struggle and survival, but beyond the name lies a deeper tale of resilience. And Sabit has more.
In Ghana, names of towns and villages are mostly given by the first settlers in those communities and are often drawn from their life experiences. But few are as bold as Mampehia, which literally means women do not like poverty. For decades, this community, which lies along the Techiman-Sunyani highway, had its name derived from a bitter experience of the man who first settled here. Today, we are here to uncover the defiant history behind this extraordinary name, which have left many travelers and visitors wondering what could have informed the unique name of this predominantly farming community. Openi Nana Amuabafo is a resident and a former assemblyman here. What I know about it is that the man who first settled here was from Kobo. He was from the Nsanye family. He was called Openi Aduyao, who then had 2 wives, went through lots of difficulties with his farming trade, subjecting him to extreme hardships. This led to his 2 wives leaving him because they both abhorred poverty. He came with 2 wives, but seeing how tough life became, both wives left him. His friends and family started inquiring about the whereabouts of his wives. He will then reply by saying, "We know women don't like poverty." Hence, the name Mampihia, which means women do not like poverty. The name Mampihia became a blueprint. This is because people who knew Openi Aduya often asked about the whereabouts of his wives, and his response, Mampihia, to wait, women do not like poverty.
Indeed, women do not like poverty. Enjoy the rest of your evening.